AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our host brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI in Action cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career. To listen to the latest AI in Action podcast, head over to www.alldus.com/podcast or subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts.
Welcome to another edition of the Alldus podcast. I'm your host, Ben Sparks, and today we are continuing with our Digital Transformation series with a focus on ServiceNow, interviewing some of the best and brightest leaders, executives, and technical talent from across the ecosystem. Today, we are very lucky to be hosting Erica. Erica is VP of HR, Product and Services at Hilton. She's a highly accomplished leader responsible for strategy, design, development, delivery and deployment of global workplace and marketplace technology solutions. Erica has worked for a number of top brands, obviously Hilton included, but also working at Best Buy, Radio Shack, Neiman Marcus and Target. So some very well-known brands there. In today's conversation, Erica will be giving us an overview of a number of different areas, her career included, but we're going to hone in on some macro trends affecting human resources from a digital transformation standpoint and some other macro trends regarding the hospitality sector specifically from a transformation perspective and the future of ServiceNow in HR with a nod towards innovation. So Erica, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. And we've got some quite meaty topics there, so I'm excited by this one. So we'll come on to your role in a moment, but obviously Hilton, most people will know that. Do you mind giving us a quick overview of the organization?
Well, if you haven't heard of Hilton, I don't know where you've been. So most people have heard of Hilton, and hopefully most people have stayed in one of our hotel rooms. If you haven't, it is not too late. But in 2019, we celebrated our 100-year anniversary. And we have been named the #1 company to work for in the US by Forbes magazine, not once, but twice in the last 3 years. Let me tell you, that is no small feat. We have over 400,000 team members in 6,000 properties across 119 countries. And now we have 18 brands under the Hilton names.
Fantastic. So let's talk about your role currently and the responsibilities you have in your role as VP at Hilton.
I always like to simplify it and say my primary responsibilities include connecting people, transforming technology, and elevating team member experiences. A lot is built into that, but I think at the end of the day, those are the three things I do probably every minute of every day.
So I gave a bit of an introduction there to some of the brands you'd worked for previously. Obviously, we'll dig into your role maybe at Hilton a bit later, but I'd love to know a bit more about your career story, maybe even before Hilton. So some of the tipping points and maybe moments where you look back and think why they were so important to where you got to.
Yeah, and before I get into that, I think I gave a very high level instance of kind of what I do in my primary responsibilities at Hilton. But even if I wanted to go a little bit deeper and talk about the HR product space specifically at Hilton, it's really the epicenter of where our employees and our technology intersect. So my team at Hilton is dedicated to applying a product mindset and a product approach that is grounded in, #1, exceptional user experience, scalable and integrated platforms, and last but not least, innovative solutions. I would love to say, and I often practice what I preach, that I'm aggressively ambitious about leveraging a landscape that promotes rapid expansion, accelerated growth of digital capabilities, all with the intention of connecting people, transforming technology, and elevating experiences. So that's how we got there. Yeah. But yeah, before Hilton, I had quite a career before Hilton as well. I graduated with a degree in computer science. So when people always say, can you describe yourself in one word? I'm a technologist. I started my career story at Lockheed Martin Aeronautics Company here in Fort Worth, Texas. And I joined a core engineering team and became a junior developer. I was writing code for the pilot control panels in the latest fighter jet that we had at the time, which was the Joint Strike Fighter. But my biggest takeaway from Lockheed Martin came out of an information systems leadership development program. That's where I spent 2 years rotating between different technology areas of expertise. And from that experience, I learned that technology is not one size fits all whatsoever. The opportunity also required me to attend graduate school And as a result, I received my Master's of Science and my MBA from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, better known as RPI in upstate New York. And that was really a strategic 2-for-1 for me early in my career, to have a little bit of job experience and then to go and expand beyond that from an educational foundation and get further theory to add to my practice with the Master of Science and the MBA. It really opened up the world to seeing technology as an enabler and not just doing the technology for the sake of the technology. So with this newfound view on technology, I transitioned to roles and moved back to my hometown in the Midwest and worked for Big Blue, aka IBM, in our Chicago office at the time. And I joined a product team and entered into IBM's sales school for 6 months, where I was groomed to think on my feet, present myself authentically, and to always be selling. So coming out of the rigorous training program, I joined the massive sales ranks at IBM. I had responsibilities for small and medium-sized business accounts in the Chicagoland territory. I would always say this job is super unique in that I worked remotely. I spent more time at client offices than at the IBM headquarters, which was really not the way people were working at that time in the early 2000s. But it was definitely the biggest professional lesson learned, in that I really found the importance of establishing authentic, respectable client relationships. And I think that's taken me very far throughout my career, regardless of what company, what organization, what state I was actually doing the technology work. And then coming to Hilton, or prior to coming to Hilton, I was at a wedding. This is a funny story, and I was at a wedding with other prior coworkers, and we were all talking about where would we work if we didn't work where we work. And I always said that I would love to work in hospitality just because I love to travel. And I have this thing where I like to marry my personal passions to my professional passions. And literally 6 months later, I got a call and someone was like, hey, we have this role at Hilton. We think your background is really interesting. It could be pivotal for us in our organization to help us modernize and transform Hilton's HR technology. And so the rest was really history, but I always tell people I spoke Hilton into existence before coming over. And when I came on board, it was truly a transformative experience for me because I transitioned into a new industry and into a new function, moving away from that traditional IT organization from well-known retail companies, but more over to HR and hospitality. What I really enjoy about my role is the breadth of the work, and the people are at the heart of everything I do in HR. I am so fortunate to work for enterprise and with our global property teams every day. If you would have asked me 4 years ago if I was a traditional HR practitioner, I would have said, no way. But today I really stand here transformed and passionate about the technology and the people behind it.
That is such a great journey. As you look back, what have been some of the key learns that you've had? And I suppose, what was some of the advice you'd give to yourself?
I could go back in my way back time machine. I would say there's a couple of moments that were really instrumental. My time at Target is really what makes me the leader that I am today. The beauty of working at Target was that it is and was a well-oiled machine. It was first class in its leadership development. They had very mature business processes. It was a strong consumer brand. It was performing well in the marketplace. We had cutting edge partnerships, and we had this unrecognizable industry recognition. So when you put all that together, it's like the perfect storm for really meaningful projects, really innovative work, really functional and productive teams over a long period of time. So I spent several years there, and it really served as the foundation for my professional prowess. And I will forever be grateful for my time spent there, being able to rise in an elite organization as such, and then take with me just this robust leadership toolkit and a deeper understanding of what execution looks like at the point of excellence. I think a lot of times we work, but we really don't work in excellent environments all the time. And then I joined Radio Shack, which held for me many childhood memories of visiting the store and buying race cars with my dad. But in 2014, the sad reality was it was going belly up. And my role was the last Hail Mary to save the company. I joined and took on the task very seriously. I reported to the CIO and led the PMO, which was really instrumental in data-driven decision-making and portfolio management at the time. We had to be very focused, if you can imagine. We didn't have a lot of time. But in the end, it ended up being too late for us to really turn the Titanic around. I was going to say too little, too late, but it was a lot too late, if that makes any sense. But I walked away with new tools in my toolbox. I think the biggest being the ability to build and motivate teams in a time of crisis. And whoa, has that paid off in 2020 and 2021. It was really the stuff that you read about in business school, but I was actually living it out in my day-to-day work life at Radio. And then I moved on to Neiman Marcus, where I was hired on to provide oversight for all technology portfolios, including our e-commerce portfolio, our supply chain, transportation, logistics, even over in store operations and our customer care organization. Despite the opportunity, there was always something a little bit awry at Neiman's, and it was one of those gut check feelings that you couldn't really explain, but you just felt it in the environment. But if I had to describe it, I would say it was just a misalignment of the workplace culture and the marketplace presence. As a customer, when you walk into Neiman's, you're treated with the highest level of customer service and the most fabulous retail spaces. But meanwhile, behind the scenes, the cubes were filled with, dare I say, like mediocrity, politics, and cowardice. And so my biggest takeaway from that professional experience was that leadership truly matters. And two quotes really come to mind when I think about that time. One being, leadership is not a position or title. It is action and example. You have to talk the talk and walk the walk. And the second one being that the mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, and the superior teacher demonstrates. The great teacher inspires. And I think those two things just wrap up what leadership means.
I love that second quote as well. It seems like you've really learned some very specific lessons per organization. So thanks for breaking that down for us. A lot of people maybe just give more macro themes, but you've really seemed like you've learned as each step of your journey, you've taken something from it. And we're noticing that is a bit of a theme as we interview leaders, right? It's that it's not a linear path, and no matter where you go, it's about bringing something new to your own skill set, no matter what the environment. So that was an awesome overview. Thank you. I'd love to zoom out a bit. Obviously, these are both very meaty topics, but hopefully we give some sort of high level overview. Obviously, as a leader in the human resources area and in digital transformation, I'd love to know what are some of the more general trends that you're seeing that are affecting sort of HR as it comes to transformation at the moment.
I think this is the best time ever to be in HR. There's so much going on, and the field and function itself is transforming in so many ways. I think some of the things that are really standing out and really just top and front and center are just accelerated digital strategies and understanding the importance of finishing what we started from a digital component. Like, we will continue to invest heavily in our transformation and the integration of our platforms to create these more seamless, frictionless digital experiences for our employees and team members. And so I think a lot of people start the journey from a digital transformation process, but it really requires a lot of care and feeding along the way. The second one would be just like this various focus on providing solutions and tools to frontline deskless workers that will keep them connected, informed, and engaged. As you can imagine, 90% of our work, probably closer to 95% of our workforce at Hilton, of that 400,000 that I was speaking about earlier, is deskless. So they don't have the 3 screens that I look at constantly while I'm working. At best, they have a mobile device, and that's how they are connected to the rest of their property, to the larger enterprise, globally as well. And so we have to keep them connected, informed, and engaged so they can be of the best service possible in real time to our guests. And last but not least, it's just leveraging platforms internally and externally to promote and share stories that are reflective of our culture and our commitment to create this inclusive environment for our team members and our guests. I think it's super important to share all the goodness that happens in our properties, at our corporate offices, the relationships that we have with our guests, the role and the impact that we have in our community, so others can strive to be like us, and so that we can be a shining example, but so also we can hear and learn from other stories.
And the hospitality sector specifically, again, very specific sector, obviously. How's that changing and what's being embraced in that industry at the moment?
I think there's a handful of those as well. Mobile first services. So really enabling guests to complete check-in or order room service and even unlock their door itself by using their phones or their mobile devices. And so this whole mobile first strategy has been really key and critical to how we operate today on a property level. The Internet of Things, everything's talking to you, you are talking to everything. We will continue to make investments in smart rooms. And so I read somewhere that IoT will be upwards of like $14 trillion in the marketplace in the next decade, and the number of connected things will steadily increase over time. Data analytics. So guest data is instrumental in determining what aspects of our business need to be improved and what is working well. Virtual reality. This is another space where we are seeing a lot of growth and innovation. So this enables guests to take a quick look at the property anytime, anywhere via their desktop and mobile devices. And so they get to experience the experience without actually being there. And then chatbots. We see chatbots growing. Often say we need a mother chatbot to mind the children chatbots. There's so many chatbots. And they really provide guests with information and services that they need via this AI-powered app and technology that we're seeing more pervasively just in the ecosystem. And so the information is available all the time in a form of this digital concierge. And so users just need to click on their phones to access them, which is really good because we can't be everywhere all the time from a people standpoint. And so this actually gives people the information that they need. And what we're seeing is that when we invest in some of these digital transformation, innovation, ideas, implementation, projects, and initiatives, like there's tons of benefits. And so we reduce the waiting time. Going back to that, offering the self-check-in and guidance can reduce queues on-site at property, so no longer standing in line so much to check into your room. You can come into the property, open your digital key, go straight to your room. That has incredible guest satisfaction associated with it. And empowering our guests to really just self-serve for themselves. We see increased communication flow. So we leverage these messaging communication channels with our guests before they arrive and during their stay, providing them with updated information in real time relevant to their stay. And it also allows our guests to personalize their stay. So if they change their mind upon booking, they may have booked a typical room. If they want to upgrade their room, they can do that through these other channels, even before they get to the property. And we're also really big about reducing our carbon footprint. That's an additional benefit from being mobile first and going digital. So instead of printing paper forms, key cards, many of them have Hilton Honors as their mobile app, and so they can accomplish these things easily via a mobile device. Hilton is committed to sustainability to support increasing consumer enterprise green lifestyle demands. It's really important to us from a key value perspective. And then we also get to know so much more about our guests. So we use the analytics that the guests provide us. We can get more information related to their demographic index, their preferences, their tastes, so as to maximize their experiences by personalizing the service offering that we're providing them. And then last but not least, this also just raises our brand awareness and improves our performance. Most of our potential guests tend to believe in the reviews of our previous guests too. And so we have that community that we're building around the brand and the awareness of it.
And obviously ServiceNow, as we spoke before this podcast, ServiceNow is playing a big part in that for you and I'm sure the Hilton in general. Could you talk to us about how ServiceNow has added benefit and some of the key projects that you're embarking on yourself that sort of works with the above themes?
Yeah, I would say the biggest presence that we have ServiceNow for right now is around our just incident management platform. We have several of them. They're connected to our global service desk implementations from HR to technology and other functions as well. In the sales area, we see case management across all of our business functions. They're so pivotal because they really drive the growth of our digital workflows and they streamline, optimize, and standardize the flow of work for our team members. We see global expansion continue to be one of our key differentiators. And as we expand globally, we will also deploy these case management tools to different markets. For example, the UK, Mexico, as we expand, these case management tools will also continue to expand and work for us. I think some of the challenges associated with them or lessons learned is just around how do you provide access across these different case management tools. And so if we have many of them, how do we make sure that we are providing the appropriate access, that we're integrating them holistically? And so we have just a broader view of the data and not subset standalone silos of data. We really get the most value out of holistic data versus the separate and distinct instances of the case management data that we have. But there's always wins. I think the things that we benefit most from leveraging ServiceNow as our case management platform is really just the self-service enablement that it provides to our team members. Our enhanced data sets. Before, we didn't have this robust data to really understand where people were working or what cases we're getting and how we can be proactive versus reactive in setting our strategies and priorities to align to those things. We get data visualization with dashboards, and then we get robust audit capabilities as well.
Obviously, as companies embark on transformation, and you've been at the forefront of a number of them, one of the things that we're thinking of is the value it's bringing. So I love that you touched on that there. What should be front of mind for a C-suite, a CIO or CEO or CPO who's bringing in transformation into the business? And what would your advice be and I'm guessing you do this with your executive stakeholders, so hopefully it's not too much of a wide question.
Yeah, I think digital transformation should be on its way out the door because in my experience, change is always constant. And even when we take on these huge transformations, oftentimes we're going from these on-premise static systems that are standalone, and you start them up and they just work for many years, but they're not innovative and such. And so I feel like they're really static, standalone powerhouses that are in play before digital transformation. But most of the time when you transform, you're going to some kind of cloud-based solution. And what people fail to realize is that cloud-based solutions are dynamic by nature. And so they're always changing, they're always being updated. There's always releases associated with them. And so you're constantly changing with your dynamic solution that you've employed as well. And so change will continue to be. The priority should be to transform well. And to do that, I found like there's some key building blocks associated with it. And building an exceptional employee experience. Activate a strategy that is engaging and inclusive. Whatever you implement should be able to reach the masses and reach the masses really. I say expedite the journey from systems to people to systems for people. If people can't engage with your system, if it's not intuitive, if they don't know the role that the system plays in the whole people, process, and technology ecosystem, it's really hard for you to leverage the value of that system or the adoption of that system. I think we should definitely migrate away from siloed applications to more integrated productivity platforms that will enable communication, collaboration, and the exchange of information. And last but not least, I say when you make this transformation, it's often not just the technology, there's the people and the process and the mindset that transforms too. And so that all boils down to this transformational leadership, which could be really uncomfortable. It requires motivating, delegating, applying, advocating, convincing, mobilizing the masses. And the key to it is just to develop an actionable strategy, design for the modern workplace, and execute with confidence and measure your impact.
When we look at ServiceNow and probably just more generally HR, obviously you know exactly what what's coming in the future, and you've got a crystal ball that's going to help you predict it. But in your opinion, what does it look like if we look from an innovation standpoint? And the reason I'm asking is we have a huge audience as well in the sort of AI space, so I know that the future side of it is always front of mind for them as well as our ServiceNow listener base.
I say it's really around harnessing the power of data mining. We are able to proactively and accurately meet team member needs because we have visibility into the trends and data sets from the case management tools and reporting. And so let's use that data wisely and proactively. I think that's going to be the future of things, having some visualization or a little bit of hindsight in the now to be able to see where we're going.
And look, this has been a fantastic overview. You've given our listeners probably more than what I was ever expecting. So thank you so much for sharing all of this. Just as we come to a close, if you could go back and do it all again, what advice would you give to younger Erica?
I would tell younger Erica, do what you love, fail fast, be brave, bold, and brilliant.
Pretty much sounds like you did that, but yeah. Thank you very much, Erica. This has been great. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Alldus offer an exec search program. Alldus can help you discover how data science and AI can transform your company. With our unrivaled network of C-suite executives and senior AI professionals, we offer retained search services across the US and Europe. For more information, contact mark@alldus.com. Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following. AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston, and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career, and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.